It's been a few days since we got back from Powertour, and we are back in the shop. The 361 big block Mopar did end up making its run. I don't have a lot of footage of the car while it was out there, but whatever I can find, I'll go ahead and put it up on the screen.
Oh, they're more different cop cars.
Overall, the car did manage to make its highway drive to Pomona, and then it raced at Pomona, and then it drove all the way back home. And overall, the car did pretty well. While at the track, the car only made one run, and that was against my dad's 1970 Dodge Challenger RT, which comes equipped with a HP 440 that we ended up putting a cam and a carburetor and intake on, along with a set of long tube headers. So my dad's 70 Challenger is no slouch, but we did end up having a couple of problems with his car, especially halfway down the track where we started to notice that the car was backfiring. So both his car and my car only made one run. What I've got in front of me is my best time from Willow Springs. It ended up being my second run. The car was still a little bit slow off the line. I had installed a Summit 2800 3200 stock converter. It really didn't make a difference. I still had the 750 Proform carburetor, and I've since downsized to a 650. Willow Springs doesn't really keep tabs on all the other numbers, but it does give you the final mile per hour and elapsed time, which is 82 miles per hour at the 1,000 with an ET of 12.85. Jumping over to my run over at Pomona, I've got my car on the left. I got my dad's car on the right. What sucks about this is that we actually left at different times because my dad didn't realize how the light worked, and he actually stopped on the first set of beams instead of the second set of beams. The light timed out, and I had to go ahead and make my run. So we couldn't leave side by side, but after he made his run, I managed to grab both slips, and this is what we've got.
All right, so I didn't get to see Night Wrencher run, but he did make a clean pass, so let's see what you did.
So let me show you. I actually went up against my dad's 1970 Challenger, and this is his slip right here. So he ran a 17.5 at 71 miles per hour, and I was right next to him at 14.8 at 96 miles an hour. This is actually my fastest pass. It's my fastest 60 foot at
fastest by an extreme margin.
By an extreme margin. 2.7 on the 60 foot, 10.083, which is my fastest 8th mile time at 81 miles an hour, 14.88 at 96.58 miles per hour. And this is, we did a one and done. We weren't sure if it was even gonna make it. It's actually smoking quite a bit. I had to back off the timing because we kind of just stabbed in the distributor last night. We worked until, we went to sleep like around midnight, and then we got back up at like 7 o'clock in the morning to come here. Everything's untested. We just kind of just hit it. We did it more like a kind of a tune, but not really. And I did some final adjustments while we were waiting in line, and it did what it needed to do, and it won its race.
This thing is definitely cursed. Everything we do, it just fights.
Oh, the starter button's broken now.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course, it's something else.
It broke. Like right now, I'm trying to start it, and the starter button just goes.
How was the alignment at speed?
At that final alignment that we had, it was perfect.
Okay, yeah, because we were digging around with alignment forever, like everything. We had to touch everything.
Go ahead. I told you, it was the ignition switch.
You told me 10 seconds ago, and it's been like 3 hours. Let's see if it didn't break again. But I was saying, you know, who cares about the ET? It's just a mile an hour run. You know, if we can get, I think it had close to 100 mile an hour in the quarter, because 100 mile an hour is basically a 12, assuming you can actually get it down it. And sure enough, 96. I knew it had enough to get close to 12s, but the thing just runs so bad, you know, but 14 is still way better.
I mean, time crunch for Powertour is not friendly. So my dad had a slightly faster reaction time at 309 versus my 588. At the 60 foot, he's actually got me at 2.576 versus my 2.77. So up until the 60 foot, he still got me beat. At the 330, that's where things kind of start to turn around. I'm at 699 and my dad's car is at 709. At the 660, I'm at 10.0 and my dad is at 10.7. Mile per hour for the 660 is 81 miles per hour on my end, which is actually about 8 miles per hour faster than my fastest run previously versus my dad's 63 miles per hour. I'll see if I can find the slip for Irwindale and then we can compare his 2 8th mile times to see if there's a discrepancy. Ahí está. Dale. But I believe his time at Irwindale was 10 miles per hour faster, so we're just gonna have to see about that. At the 1,000, we're looking at 12.65 on my end and 14.41 on his. If we go back on the slip that we have from Willow Springs, I had a 12.8. So I'm 1/10 faster versus how I was over at Willow Springs, but it's not really comparable, and I'll go over that in a second. And my final time was 14.88 at 96 mile per hour, and my dad's time was 17.54 at 71 miles per hour. So now that we've got all the boring numbers out of the way, the question now is, how are we going to get this car faster than it was at Pomona? And to answer that, I'm going to go ahead and explain a few things. The first thing is that the summer converter that I went ahead and dropped in was nowhere near loose enough to get this engine in its power band on the initial hit. And my solution to that is to just replace the converter. I had a local converter shop build me this torque converter. I actually got it a little bit wet, so a little bit of rust is showing, but I'm going to go ahead and clean that up before I throw that into the car. This is a 9.5-inch converter with the billet base. The alleged stall is 3,400, and it's supposed to be pretty high performance, so I'm not exactly sure what I'm expecting out of this, but I'm hoping it's better than what I have in it right now. I also picked up a replacement shifter seal because my transmission is puking oil, so while I've got the transmission down, I might as well go ahead and replace the seal. And I've also picked up this. I went ahead and picked up an SF5 flex plate because I didn't want the old flex plate to come apart and cut my legs in half. This one is also a neutral balance flex plate, and my converter is also neutral balance, so it's all going to flow really well with the 361 crankshaft that's in it right now. The next thing I want to talk about is the actual turbo. So at Willow Springs, I had my first track day with the GT45 turbo. I was not necessarily happy with the way the GT45 was performing. It seemed to spool up really slow. I couldn't get it to spool on the hit. So I went ahead and I bought a 7875 from eBay, and then I installed that. My first and only track day with that turbo was at Pomona. But while I had the turbo apart, I was going to replace the wastegate spring to the one I had in it before, which was a 5-pound spring, and then I was going to just unhook that boost line so I can go back up to 14, because I knew that doing those two in combination would get me to those 14 pounds. You know what, I was going to change the wastegate spring. The reason for that is because every time I make a change, I like to set everything back down to baseline, so that way I can properly record the positive or negative doing something. But while we were trying to figure out my no-start condition last time with Travis, the fact that I had to change the wastegate spring completely left my mind, and we assembled everything and I completely forgot. So I don't actually know what wastegate spring is in there, but I'm almost 100% sure that the spring that's in there is actually weaker than the 14 pounds that I was running before. All right, that's enough of that. Let's go ahead and put this car up in the air and drop the transmission. Trans fluid isn't looking too happy here. This is basically the difference between the stock flex plate and the one I picked up from PRW. So this one, pretty thin gauge sheet metal. And the one that I got from PRW that's SFI certified, it's significantly thicker. I don't think the camera's going to focus, but you guys get the general idea. Plus, there's more surface area. It is a little bit heavier, but I think as long as it can keep everything together and safe, that's better for me. This flex plate also uses the bigger torque converter bolts, and the torque converter also uses the bigger torque converter bolts, so that's always a plus. The car's pretty much all done. I don't think I have the footage of the GoPro of me putting the transmission back on, but everything's all back together. Right now, I just need to take it to one more event before it hits the track one more time. I have a blue Pontiac that's been trying to get me to race him, so we might actually do this in the next couple weeks. So we'll see if that happens. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Night Wrencher, signing out.